context, then there is no
it doesn't
argument
matter if
from both of us without context.
100%.
You know this, and yet you try to negate it.
No, I don't know this.
Here.
No, you
deal
can't.
with the context, and if you can't deal with it, don't come with an argument. Deal with the context.
You can't tell me what I'm thinking.
No, exactly. But that's what you do to me.
Or what my opinion is.
And that's what people like you do to me.
What's going on, everybody? Wired here. I hope you guys are having a very satisfying, relaxing Sunday. And today I wanted to comment on something that I actually saw from another content creator, Mr. Black Conservative Perspective, Greg Foreman. Huge shout out to him. The guy is probably the best commentator on YouTube. Anyway, Piers Morgan, if you don't know, he's pretty based. And he's not afraid to call out racism, which is something I've actually had a little bit of a problem with getting my content career off the ground, because as a person who is not in the POC community, you always got to be worried about how that's going to land. You know what I mean? But Piers Morgan, I think, is actually fantastic about it. He's very unapologetic. And we're going to get into a debate right now where he is confronting Miss Imran, Ayton. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at names. Who is just a very prejudiced, bigoted person who thinks racism kind of only goes one way. Probably with the Piers Morgan's guest, the crew that kind of goes through and through. Probably the only one I think is worse than her is probably Miss Tessa Dunlop. But be that as it may, let's get into the clip and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Buy tickets. The Theatre of Royal Stratford East in London says no one's excluded from attending their new show, Tambo and Bones, but promotional material makes clear that white people aren't wanted at the production on the night in question. Says a blackout night is a purposeful creation of an environment in which an all black identifying audience can experience and discuss an event in performing arts free from the white gaze. So does this mean I can go if I identify as a black man? There would be some
100%. Yeah, if you identify as a black man, I think you could 100% go. And like I said, the really interesting thing here is this would never work in the reverse way. You would never be able to put out that we only want a white audience, because that'd be cried out in the streets. The leftists would go insane. Joe Biden would hold a press conference, or I'm not saying he could get through it very well, but he would. But it's just funny to me how this always works one way, but not the other. And I'm huge props up to Piers here for calling it out.
On the woke side who would have, well, they had trouble disagreeing with that, given they believe in limitless self-identity. But it is, more importantly, is it ever okay to exclude audiences based on skin color? What would happen?
No.
For example, if it was the other way around, if this was a white-only audience. Well, I'm joined by the Talk TV contributor.
I'm gonna say, I got Miss Esther Cracker. I can't say British names. Very British name. This woman's pretty smart, though. Yeah, no, never okay to do that. I think it was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that said that he wanted people to be judged on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And, you know, but it's 2023, so luckily he's not around to see what's going on now.
Esther Cracker and the Black Lives Matter organizer and activist Imran Ayton. So, all right, Imran, I'm just trying to picture what would happen if I put on a theatrical production in London and it said it was for whites only, or people identifying as white, which is obviously a ludicrous phrase, but...
They'd riot in the streets. There would be riots in the street. He'd be canceled immediately. And you never hear about it again, because that'd be denounced immediately as racism. But Miss Imran Ayton here is going to do some cap.
You would go nuts. You would say that is blatant racism, segregation, dragged us kicking and screaming back to the dark days of appalling bigotry. You would.
Well, it depends on the context, right?
So, whites only audience.
It depends on the context.
No black people allowed. What would you say?
Well, I think you're perfectly right. It would be akin to racists finding more ways to be...
All right. So right here, I just want to point out what she just said. You had a white-only audience, sorry. It's akin to racism. And that's probably the only fact I'm actually going to agree with her with in this entire clip, because I think that's true. I don't think you should be segregating people from going to the theater based on skin color, because that inherently is racist. But let's see what she's going to do here. Go ahead. Do what you're going to do.
More racist.
So why is it okay this way around?
Okay, so we have to put it into context. It was 1 out of the 29 shows.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. Let's put it into context, Piers. You want to forget about context. Context is everything. It is 1 out of the 29 shows that was targeted towards black people. And
This is called cap right here.
at no point did they say certain people were not excluded. In fact, they actually said it verbatim on their website. No one is excluded, and yet you have found racism.
No.
How does that
I just
work?
read the rest of what they said. It's pretty clear. You are not supposed to go if you're not black.
No, please consider booking other dates.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what they said.
I think the context.
Esther.
You're right. The context is important. I think the issue
Thank you.
here is when it's talking about sort of blackouts, and it's trying to.
I'm going to disagree and say the context is not important. Racism is racism, and it should be called out in all forms. But I do agree with Miss Esther Cracker here. I think she's a pretty smart woman, so I'll let her keep talking.
Gather an audience of black people that they believe have the same experience.
Exactly.
This doesn't transpose the same way it does.
Also, who is the same experience? I mean, whether it's color, gender, I guess, sex, age, nobody has the same experience. Just going to point that out.
In the US and the UK, right? A black person in the UK could be black African, black British, black from the Caribbean, right? In the US, the conversation around race is completely different, and that's why it's a problem. Obviously, when you bring this to the UK, people are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" This is especially in London, the most
Can you see
multicultural
any
city
merit?
in the country.
Can you see any merit to it?
Of course not. But I don't even think it makes
But
sense.
why
in
is
the
Yeah,
American
that?
context.
Why is that?
I
If you're
don't-
talking
because-
about safe spaces, because let's just be
because
clear,
I
we're
don't
talking
think-
about
I
safe
don't think-
spaces.
because I
here,
think
What do
the
you
right?
mean
idea-
safe space? What does that mean?
Because
Okay, so
You
again,
wouldn't feel safe if I came along?
No. Again, context. We're talking about a play that was done by black people for black people.
Context, exactly. We have the right to be racist and exclude people, but if it ever happened the other way around, we'd be rioting in the street. That's the context that Miss Mara Ayton is talking about here.
Targeted for black people.
So?
And so,
So what?
1 out of the... Again, let's just be clear, because you're clearly not getting this message. It is basically akin to the disabled community putting on 29 shows, and 29 shows about disabilities, and then one of those shows is targeted towards the disabled community. That is...
Did she just compare being black to being disabled? No, I'm not black and I'm not disabled. So I can't speak on either of those things, but I think that's quite a big leap to compare your skin color to a physical or mental disability. I think that's pretty nuts. Not my words, her words. Don't come at me, please.
what it is akin to, and yet you have a problem. Why is that, Piers? Have you genuinely asked yourself
I have
why
a
it's
problem.
different between disabilities
I
or
have-
disabled
I have a
community or
problem.
Jewish, but when it comes to black...
My problem
Oh,
is that you have already conceded that if it was the other way round, and this was a whites-only night of this theatrical performance,
Context.
you would say
Context.
racist. And that's my
Safe
problem.
Spaces.
It's
safe
a-
spaces.
it's the
black
double
people are
standard.
disproportionately
Can I
affected
just
by
ask
racism, so
why-
therefore it's about safe spaces.
And again, where are the statistics on that exactly? Please show me anywhere that black people are disproportionately affected by racism. This is what people like to point out, they like to say, but they say most violence, at least US statistics, most violence actually comes from people of the same race. There's more white on white crime, there's more black on black crime. That's just the truth of the matter of it. Most safe spaces are actually interrupted by people of the same race. That's not me talking, that's statistics. Go get the census.
This play
I don't
is about
think this kind-
racism,
I don't
so
think-
therefore we should have a safe space for black people as we are disproportionately affected by
patronising
racism.
then?
I don't think
No,
you
it's
tackle.
not.
I
You
don't.
wouldn't say that to a woman. You wouldn't say that to
Yes,
a
I
woman if she
would.
was talking about abuse and therefore she wanted and they wanted and she wanted
All right,
a safe
let Esther
space.
respond.
I'm sorry.
You wouldn't say that.
The idea of safe spaces and black people needing safe spaces is
When
extremely
talking about
patronizing.
racism. But when talking about racism,
Okay,
Let her
but
finish.
What about
It
Asian?
isn't.
What about
It
Asian
isn't.
people? Do Asian people need safe spaces
when
from
talking,
racism?
when talking
No,
about
do Asian
racism,
people?
when
No, but they-
I'm
oh,
answering
come on,
your
but we don't
question.
have those
When
conversations.
talking
Let
about,
Esther finish.
No, she just asked me a question, so I'm answering it. When talking about Asian racism, I think they deserve.
This woman is completely obnoxious. She won't even let the other woman finish. You can see it on her face right here, Mr. Esther Cracker. You can definitely see it on her face. She's just like, she's not buying any of this ish. Really not. I guess she's got the same, she's got a smug face too. But, you know, I find these type of people absolutely astounding. They keep this race grift, this race hustle alive because that's the only way she's getting paid. Because she doesn't know anything else. Just grift racism. Everything's racism.
Of a bit of a safe space.
Gotta
when
have
they're
safe
talking
spaces.
about their
Yeah.
own experiences
Gotta have
black
safe
people
spaces.
or from white people?
from all types of people that are going
Really?
to
All right,
promote
Esther-
judgment. Because it's about being free of judgment.
Esther, let me
I'm
ask you-
sorry,
Esther, let me
free
ask
of
you-
white
Hey,
judgment,
Mark,
free of
Mark,
Asian
Mark,
judgment,
let
free
Esther-
of all types
Let somebody
of
else speak,
judgment.
please.
No, I'm going to.
Or we're going to have a
problem.
safe space where you get removed so that only I can be
Happily,
heard speaking.
happily, and I'll say bye to you both.
I will have a one night only
Happily,
Piers.
happily, I'll say bye to
Only
you both. I'll
Piers.
see you on Saturday. I'll say bye.
I'll
to
have a
you.
night.
Piers has had her on way too many times as it is. So
I have
no,
one
it's
night
fine,
of the show
no
where
problem.
only I am
Woman
allowed to
always spits
speak
the
and you're
same
not
vitriol.
allowed to.
That's it.
Because of your skin colour. How would you like that?
Well, that's called racism.
Exactly.
Oh!
Exactly my point.
No, it's not. It's
Esther, let me
completely-
ask you this.
Oh. See, this is the weird liberal mindset. You defeat your own logic by just speaking because you can't stand in your own hypocrisy and you're going to keep moving the goalposts. That would be racist. But having a black only night is not. That's astounding. Astounding, really.
What would most black friends of yours or family think about this? I mean, in other words,
I'd be
is it
surprised
something
if
where
you
a
had
lot of
any
black
friends.
people might go, you know what? Actually, I
Really?
can see some merit to this.
They would see it as an American
Oh, her.
importation,
Well, maybe
right?
not.
Does that mean necessarily a bad thing?
I think that it would.
No, it's
yeah,
not.
it would be seen. It would be seen as ridiculous, but ridiculously, particularly American, right?
Boom.
Because black people are not a monolith, which we can all agree on. Black people come from various parts of the world. They have different
But they
cultures.
share similar
This
experiences.
idea that there is a shared black experience,
But they
I think,
share
is
similar-
ludicrous.
but they do.
Other than the color
They
of our
do.
skin,
No,
but I
they
don't.
do.
But you
But
have
you
to
just-
accept
you
there are
just-
many connotations you're adding to
But
that.
by your own
I could
testament,
say
you
that.
say
I
that
could
we
say
have
that
shared
as a black
experiences
person,
by
I
our-
faced more.
100% agree with her. I don't think people do have shared experiences based on the color of their skin. I think everyone's experience through life is completely different. See, this woman's base. She's very smart.
Racism from Asian and Middle Eastern people, so I should have a safe space from those people. Can you even
That's if you want to
identify
be
them?
specific.
No,
If
but
you
that's
want to be
but that's
specific, you
that's
have the right to
ridiculous.
I don't think.
You have
Okay, let
the
me
right to do
interrupt.
that if you've been
Let me
abused.
speak.
You
I
have the
don't
right
think
to do
any
that,
form of
Esther.
art should ever be exclusionary on the grounds of skin color,
Facts.
regardless of who it's targeted to or who it's made
We're
by.
talking about race
The
equity.
whole point of art is it should be for everybody.
But we're talking about race equity.
For
in this
everybody.
moment.
No, no.
Context.
No, you're
I
not.
don't.
You're
No, it's not.
talking-
It's not racially equal about this.
Yes.
It's racially unequal. You're saying no
Yes.
white people can come.
Context.
It's ridiculous.
What's the play about, Piers?
I've heard your art.
What's the
doesn't
play
matter.
It
about?
doesn't matter what it's
Yes,
about.
it does.
It
And
doesn't.
that's your issue. You
Yeah,
want to-
I gotta go to Piers Morgan. He's a pretty base guy, really. It doesn't matter what the context is about. It doesn't matter what the play is about. The fact that some people can go to see it and some people are not is inherently racist if you're basing it off of skin color. That's just the truth. How this woman can actually get up there, I know it's her whole grip, but how she can actually get up there and spit this type of vitriol is absolutely astounding. It really is.
to negate context.
No,
and there is no
it doesn't
argument
matter if
from
every-
both of us without context.
100%.
You know this, and yet you try to negate it.
No,
every
I don't
single
know
time
this.
here.
No, you
Deal
can't-
with the context, and if you can't deal
can't-
with it, don't come with an
You
argument.
can't tell
deal
me.
with the context.
You can't tell me what I'm
No,
thinking.
exactly. But that's
right?
what you do to me.
Or what my opinion
And that's what
is.
people like you do to me.
People like
and
me?
Yes.
What do you mean
yes,
people like me?
Prejudice. Racially prejudiced people like yourself. That's what,
What?
you do. That's why we need safe spaces.
You're calling me racially
And
prejudiced.
then this is the classic whole racism trope, obviously. Now she's going to call Piers Morgan racist because now her point has been swept under the rug. He's debunked it. He's shown her own hypocrisy. So now what card does she have? Well, you're a racist. You're a bigot. Homophobe. This is what the leftists do. And amazingly, a lot of them make careers out of it.
I've done that several times, Piers. Why are you surprised?
Why are
What's
you
going
saying
on?
that?
Ignorance doesn't actually suit you.
That's ignorant, actually.
No,
what you
no,
just
it's
said.
not. I've just told you
I'm not
that's
racially
not
right.
prejudiced.
Okay,
And what
so
you just said
what's
is very
prejudice, Piers?
offensive.
What-
And you
what's
shouldn't be
prejudice,
saying
Piers?
that.
It's not offensive though because he's white. If it was the other way around, Piers Morgan would lose his show. His show would be gone. Just like he kind of lost it when he was on GB News. He lost it for the Meghan Markle claims. His show would be gone, 100%. This woman can get on here and spit whatever she wants to, and it's totally fine because she's a protected class. No cap. Just saying.
Piers, what's prejudice?
Huh?
What's prejudice?
If you're
You've been
racially
learning.
prejudiced, you are a
You are.
racist.
What's prejudice?
That's what you just
You.
called
You've been
me.
learning. What's
I'm not
prejudice?
accepting that. Sorry.
What's prejudice?
Esther, will you go and watch this?
Swiftly
No,
move
but I'm-
on.
No, I don't think you should be calling me a racist.
Swiftly move
It's
on.
ridiculous.
I've done it several times, and yet you have a
Yeah, exactly. You've called him a racist several times because that's the only way you can get your point across. And we've reached a point within our society where certain words really have no meaning anymore. They just bounce off people like they're a ping pong ball, it's like a rubber band. Racism doesn't mean anything anymore because of the way people throw it around.
a problem
then you're
on the
wrong
third
every time.
I did it last year. You're talking
Well,
about
good for
it today
you.
as if it's
Oh,
a new,
what a
new
surprise.
surprise. It's not. I told you last year you were racially
it's a
prejudiced. And I'm telling
lazy-
you,
He's racially prejudiced, yet he's having you on the show to have a discussion. Not saying that's impossible, just probably unlikely. Why he keeps having this woman back, I don't know. Probably because, you know, gets good ratings from it. She makes a complete fool out of herself.
again
It's a
today,
lazy
and yet
thing
you
to
have
say.
no argument.
It's a
That's
lazy
your
thing to
argument.
say.
Lazy thing to say. Well done.
Because I'm
Piers.
not
You're doing
racially
well.
prejudiced.
You're
Never
doing
have
well.
been.
What's racial prejudice, Piers?
It's being a
Answer the
racist.
question. Answer the question.
It's judging
And that's
people
what you do.
prejudicially
That's what you
on their
do.
skin colour.
That's what you
Actually,
do.
rather like
I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? Jeez. Why Piers Morgan, I don't agree with him on everything, but why he keeps having these people on these shows like this who just cannot have good faith arguments. And, you know, this woman right here, she's one of the worst offenders. Not as bad as Tessa Dunlop. I think Tessa Dunlop is far worse, actually, but she's probably second from what I've seen in the Piers Morgan show. But absolutely crazy. We all know if this was the other way around, this wouldn't be the first person jumping in there saying, that's racist. But as long as you're going after white people and white people alone, totally fine. Anyway, that's all I got. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening so long, and I will catch you on the next one. Later.